just wanted to confirm, Amy, we do have quorum. So at 1 o'clock, you're good to go.
Hey, good afternoon, everyone. Hope that everybody can hear me okay. Quick thumbs up, perfect. So it is now 1 o'clock according to my clock, so I will call this meeting to order. The very first thing is approval of the agenda. There was an addendum sent out as well, so I'm looking for a mover and a seconder to approve the agenda with the addendum. I see Councillor Tozo and then Susan as a second, and all in favor? Everyone, perfect, that carries. The second item of our agenda today is just the confirmation of the minutes from our meeting on March 7th. And so do I have a mover and a seconder to confirm the advisory committee meeting? I'm going to say the number 02-2024 held on March 7th. Thank you. I honestly am not sure who was first, so I will say Mercedes and Dinah. I see hands, and all in favor on that one? Perfect, that carries. Our next item again is disclosure of pecuniary interest. Are there any disclosures of pecuniary interest today?
Excuse me, can you speak closer to your microphone? I can't hear you as well as I could normally.
Yes, I have my headset in. Is that better if might be my hair is in the way. Is that better, Penny? Or is it still very quiet? Any feedback from others? Can everybody hear me okay?
You sound a little bit echoey, but otherwise I could hear you, just a bit faint.
Okay. Make sure my headset, I'm just going to switch my microphone.
Okay, how's that? I just switched my microphone to my camera. Is that better or worse? Can't hear
Sounds
me?
even farther away.
Okay, I'm switched back to my AirPods. Sorry, that's kind of all I've got now. Is that okay or?
No.
Can you hear me at all or not now?
You were better, Amy, at the beginning.
Yeah.
I thought, anyway.
Sorry about this. I did put it back. I thought, let me see.
No, I can't even hear.
Sorry, I'm not sure what's going on with my audio. Is that better?
It's
You
better.
can hear me now? I will try to speak louder, hopefully. Penny, is that okay for you?
Yes.
Okay, my apologies. I'll try to speak up as well. I'm not sure what's happening with my microphone. So pecuniary interest, is there any disclosures? Seeing none. We also have no delegations today. We do have a briefing this afternoon though, so I invite Amy Elgersma and Tony Gargaro from Rec Services to speak to the committee regarding the 2023 Rec Services and Facilities update.
Thank you very much. Okay, that's better. Thank you very much. It's great to be here with the committee today. Thanks for having us. I'm Amy Elgersma, and I'm the new Director of Recreation and Leisure Services. And I'm here today with Tony Gargaro, the Manager of Recreation Services, and he's going to start us off.
Hi, everyone. My name is Tony Gargaro, and I'm manager of the Recreation Services. Started back in September, so fairly new to the city and still learning a lot, and sort of hoping to provide an update to you on the inclusion. If we can go to the next slide, Derek, please. Cosmo Club. So if anybody's heard of Bloom's Skills, They're located at our center at Center 70, and they run a cafe there. They run a program for young adults with exceptionalities. This is more of an inclusion program or inclusion update that I'm providing here. But if you ever have a chance to go and taste their wares at that site, please do so. It's delicious, and they're actually expanding. So they're looking to provide services in the Kingston Community Health Center and on Weller Avenue. And they're also looking for an opportunity to enter into the Via Rail Station and provide services there for clients using the trains. So they're growing, and we're sort of supporting them and providing guidance. They also run our Cosmo Club, which is inclusion social programs within the city rec centers and other partners, and providing low cost or no cost opportunities for people or young adults with exceptionalities. If we can go to the next slide, please, Derek. Public skating. Back in December of this year, staff started to review our public skating guidelines and rules and the accessibility of patrons to access these programs. And I'm happy to say that now we have come up with the new rules. We're producing signage. They're more inclusive. They're more inviting to the public. They're allowing more access to these programs. And we'll be implementing these very shortly in all of our sites and updating all our CX agents about the new guidelines. Next slide, please. Shannon Park Exclusive Playground. So this is run by a third party. They're looking to install a new fully accessible playground in Shannon Park. There's a lot of fundraising that has to be done before we can launch the program or build it. And we're trying to support them in every aspect, either by waiving some fees so they can do some fundraising at our sites, or to guide them to some granting opportunities as they expand or grow the funds. Next program or next slide, please, Derek. So the next two slides are programs that we've done in partnership with certain partners to bring awareness or programs into our facilities and or hook partners together. So CNIBC ran some buddy system programs with the YMCA and BGC Southeast at the Rideau Heights Community Center. And the next slide, please, Derek. And then the Avoiding Falls was run in partnership with the Seniors Association. And we linked those trainers with that association to bring mobility training to seniors at Rideau Heights Community Center. And the next slide, Derek, please. As I mentioned already, the finalized public skating accessibility guidelines and inclusion initiatives will be launched very shortly. And then I think I'm going to turn it over back to Amy because the next are a couple of facilities updates.
Sure, thanks, Tony. So we also, of course, there's several different activations that happen in the Springer Market Square throughout the year. And this year was no exception, of course. Recently, there was an installation for a pilot program for artificial ice. And we this year would like to work with the partners that initiate those installations to develop a process that includes accessibility requirements and some consultation. So if you have any other thoughts on that process, I'd love to hear from you. But that's something we'd like to work with our partners from the DBIA and the Downtown Business Association and Kingston Tourism to put a process like that in place. And also the team in the facilities side of the house are working towards communicating service animal standards in recreation facilities, just to ensure that those guidelines are clear and that everybody's comfortable utilizing the facility with the service animals that they require. And I think there's one more slide, please. And we will continue to support the partners moving on into the rest of this year, support the partners in the fundraising efforts to establish the accessible playground in Shannon Park. So Tony mentioned a bit about that, and I know we're getting really excited about that project, and we're grateful to the partners for initiating that. And just one more kind of a facility side of things is to repaint all of the accessible parking spaces and the markings at the various community centers, including the Rideau Heights Community Center, Portsmouth Olympic Harbor, and Artillery Park. So we've heard some feedback on those items, and we're making sure that those are done. Most of them will probably be done within the next month or so. So thank you very much. If there are any questions, please do not hesitate to ask us, or if you'd like to reach out later, that's also another option.
That's perfect. Thank you. At this time, are there any questions from the committee? Dinah.
I just wanted to ask, with the accessible parking spaces being repainted, what type of accessible parking will it be? Will it just be the accessible parking wider spaces, or will there actually be the ramps stripes on them?
Yeah, so all of the lines in the parking lots will be repainted, and the wider parking stalls, accessible parking stalls, will be painted, and there will be some additional markings on those. We were using the standards that the city had in place, but we have since heard that there's some additional markings for those to have, like for the accessible van in some of those spaces. So we're hoping to incorporate some of those hash marks as well.
Thank you.
Any other questions from the committee? Susan?
I just had a question, and it might be beyond the scope of what you're talking about today. But one thing I wondered about was recreational programming and accessibility, and where there might be opportunities to give input in terms of some of the accessible programming that's available. And I don't know if that would be through you or through a different aspect of recreation. So
I absolutely can be through us. Sorry, we're across the desk from each other, so there's some echo. So sorry, I apologize. Yeah, absolutely can be through us. So any ideas or opportunities you can give us to us. Our model is to partner with the service experts. So we can try to connect with so Extended Family or Bloom's Cafe there, Bloom's Skills Center that I've talked about, Heart Center that we talked about for it passed in November. I think we had an update on the Heart Center. So we partner with those program deliverers, but we can offer them space in our facilities if it's easier for people to get access to those programs. And so we can look at those opportunities. But any ideas? We're open to any ideas.
I'll just give you one example that I've just come across personally. When I look at sort of the recreational opportunities for accessible swimming, so with that's part of
Yep.
and at the different accessible venues. I noticed that it's really great that there's programs, I think both group and also individual programs for kids and youth with disabilities in terms of swimming, but there doesn't seem to be anything for adults with disabilities. Particularly, for example, if an adult wanted to have individual swimming lessons or something like that. And I guess that's something that I moved here from Toronto, I guess about 7 years ago. And that was something I was able to access in Toronto. And because we have such phenomenal accessible pools through the city, it would be great if the sort of the inclusivity could kind of move upward beyond children and youth, because lots of adults and seniors with disabilities, I think, would really benefit from that kind of programming. So that's my specific idea. I might have, that's personal, but
no, that's good.
That's kind of what I was thinking about. Thank you very much.
Councillor Chozo.
Thank you, Madam Chair. For you, Amy, nice to meet you. Tony, always a pleasure to see you. A question that I have. Okay, Just elaborate on what's going on via rail. You touched on it briefly, but what kind of services is Bloomsdale Center offering at the Via Rail Center? Is it food? Is it coffee? Are they the sole provider at the Via Rail station?
So it's just under the initiative. They're just starting to negotiate with Via Rail.
Okay.
So it's not a guarantee yet, but it looks very positive. So their plan would be to have. Sorry, there's some feedbacks, Councillor. So I hope you hear it. So their idea is to use Center 70 as it's an initial training site for all their staff and learn those culinary skills and cleaning skills and everything involved with the cafe. Then they'd move to Kingston Community Health Center, which is a bit busier location, learn their wares there, and then it'd be paid employment for those individuals at the Via Rail station. So they'll pay rent at the Via Rail. They'll have to bring enough income in to support themselves as well. But from those two launching points, it'll create employment skills or employability. But it'd be like cafe. It's exactly like Center 7. They're all cafes.
Oh, excellent. Okay, thank you. That's a very exciting opportunity.
Any other questions from anyone? Megan.
Hi. So I had a further question about the updating of parking space painting. I know that that's something that's definitely helpful for just everybody's visibility to be able to see where the parking spots are. But my question kind of goes about the access aisles. Are we going to be updating the access aisles not just from the accessible parking spaces, but from accessible points of entry to the site, such as from transit and from sidewalks? Particularly from those of us who don't have vehicles, site access is a bit of a problem. So being able to have like even just a hashed out pathway through the parking lot would be lovely. I was wondering what you're thinking in terms of accessibility for people who aren't arriving in vehicles.
Thank you. Thank you for that question. So there is still some room to be able to make changes to the site plan. So we can certainly review those and see what, I think you're probably referring to Center 70, maybe with the transit and the pathways. Is that correct? Is there a specific site you're thinking about, or you're
like even when it comes to like downtown at the Artillery Park or something? It's like if you're either way that you're coming from it, you kind of have to like go through the parking lot and like go behind parked cars, which is
sure.
That sort of thing. And just I understand that site design kind of depends by the area it's designed in. But if we're repainting, we have an opportunity here to add such a like access aisle.
Thank you. So I did have some trouble hearing you, but what I can say is that, like I said, there is some room in the time frame for this project schedule to be able to make some changes. So we can take a look at it and make sure that some of those access points are showing aisles that are, have hash marks or they're clearly defined at least to be able to access the various facilities. I think that's what you're asking. Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions? I am not seeing any, so thank you so much. This kind of ties into our first item though, which was our first item of business, is actually the 2023 rec facilities update, which was kind of introduced from your presentation. So I just want to ask if there's any additional questions from the report to staff at this time from that business item 7A. Not seeing any. I'm not sure if I can tell, are there any members of the public present?
Hi, Amy. Yes, I don't think you can see on your end, but there is a member of the public present, Michael. I will allow him to speak. One moment, please. Okay, Michael should be able to speak now.
Okay, Michael,
Hello.
go ahead.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yep.
You can hear me? Oh, wonderful. Thank you. Michael Judd here. Do a lot of stuff in regards to disability in the city, and I run the Disability Network. A number of the faces are familiar. Megan, I've met you a couple of times, and a number of other individuals here. because parking was brought up, I'm very concerned about something that was brought to the city a while ago, and I brought to the MAC committee as well, and I brought to the federal government, the provincial government, was parking for the disabled, because we talked about parking earlier here in this presentation, and free parking specifically. And it was brought to the MAC committee by the city over a year ago, I believe. And it doesn't seem to have been addressed. And other cities have already done that. When I took it around, our nearest city would be Belleville. You can now park there free if you're disabled. I took that information to them, and within a few months, they had free parking available. So in that you were talking about parking there, I just wanted to bring that up. It seems to have dropped off the shelf with the city and possibly the committee. The city was asked by the MAC committee to get back to the MAC committee last year, and it doesn't seem to be getting back. So I just wanted to bring that to the attention of the committee here, because there's so many new members this year, and also Tony and Amy, because they're dealing with the parking issues as well for the disabled. And again, the province and the federal government are looking into how to possibly do that, but it really at this point is done at a municipal level. And anyways, it has support of our MP, our MPPs, mayors all around have been doing this, but it seems to have fallen off the shelf here. Anyways, anybody has any questions about that, please let me know, or you can contact me and I can send the presentation that I presented last year to the previous committee and to the federal and provincial governments. Anyways, thank you very much for your time. I really appreciate it, and all the efforts you put forth to be on the committee. Thank you.
Thanks, Michael. I see Derek. Do you have a comment on that?
Just for the benefit of clarity for both the person speaking for Michael and for the committee, the comments at this point were meant to be directed towards the report from Tony and Amy, which has to do with recreation facilities, and that is private parking on there. Just for the committee's benefit, that is what would have been in order. So there's no information and no representatives here today to speak to the issues that Mr. Judd is speaking to. So that's just, unfortunately, there's no staff here from parking operations to speak to that. So I just want to make sure, Amy, that we don't go on a side discussion that's not something listed on the agenda.
Okay, thank you. That's helpful. Okay, so Susan?
Yes, I just wanted to raise a question and maybe Derek or Christine can also assist with this. And this is about the recreational report in your presentation. So there were a number of areas such as the skating rink at Market Square or Springer Square, and also I think the I don't know how to say it, the non-ice rink that was trialed, I believe, in April. And one thing I wondered about is sometimes our committee is consulted on those kinds of city projects. And I don't know if that's something so that we can give input as well. And I don't know if that's something that's been considered, or in this case, and this is where I'm sort of deferring to Derek and Christine, if that's something that is appropriate for that type of project. I just know I've been involved in other ones where there's been wayfinding signs and things like that. And it's a really good opportunity for us to kind of have input and also understand and collaborate with the city. So anyway, that was just my comment and question. Thanks.
Thanks, Susan. And Derek?
I can speak to the process in general, then perhaps Amy can speak to the specifics regarding the timing of the skating rink, just because I don't have that information. But Susan, you are correct in that there is a process for, it's called the Accessible Consultation Process Policy, which staff are encouraged to follow, which involves inviting MAC members to serve on project teams and provide comments. I know in some cases there are difficulties because of timelines associated with projects. So again, I don't have the specifics related to the skating rink activation, but I do know, and again, Amy can jump in and correct me if I'm wrong here, but from what I've understand is happening is work is being undertaken to work better with partners that do create those activations, as they're called, in Springer Market Square, which is typically Tourism Kingston and the DBIA, to ensure that there is consultation in advance and that accessibility considerations are taken into concern. So the process is being examined there.
Great, thanks. Does that answer your question, Susan?
Oh, yeah,
Yeah, okay.
absolutely. It was just more a general comment just because of what you presented, and I was just curious, to be honest. So thank you, Derek. Thank you, everybody.
Perfect. Okay, so with that, this report, sorry, was for information only, so there's nothing we have to do with that. So we will move on to our next item, which is business item 7B, and I'll invite staff to introduce the Arts and Culture Services update.
Thank you so much. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Danica Lougheed, and I'm the Acting Director of Arts and Culture Services. This is my first time here at MAC, so I'm so happy to be here with you this afternoon. I apologize in advance. I've lost my voice, so I'm really trying to make sure I'm clear and happy to answer any questions that you have. But I'll just give you a bit of an overview of the report and not go too far into it, as it's not a briefing, but happy to then answer any questions from the committee. So this report from Arts and Culture Services Department provides an overview of how we work to reduce barriers to access to arts and culture opportunities and experiences through various service areas, such as venues, arts and culture venues, programming, broader sector development, so working to grow the arts and culture community. And then new this year for this committee is the inclusion of special events as part of arts and culture services. That group transitioned from Recreation and Leisure Services, who you just heard from, over to our department, Arts and Culture Services. And so the report in front of you talks about the work of the department as a whole in 2023, and also starts to identify some of the work we're initiating in 2024. And again, happy to answer any questions after you had a chance to read the report.
Perfect, thanks so much. So are there any questions from the committee for Danica on this report? Megan?
Hi, I'm going to be that annoying bikes girl again, but my question is about accessibility for people who want to arrive at the theater not in a car. I personally had a bit of problems trying to, like, either on a busy day getting down the sidewalk or getting through the parking lot behind there is just a bit of a no-go. So I was wondering if there was any sort of accessibility considerations for, I mean, the theater and for events for things such as mobility devices, non-typical bicycles, typical bicycles, things of such nature. Thanks.
Thanks, Megan, for that question. So I think from a Grand Theatre perspective, it is a challenge. We recognize that there are no current plans to do work in terms of that access point that you're speaking about, in terms of the exterior building or in that parking lot. It is something I can take away to speak to the team on the parking side of it. That back space of the Grand Theatre has often been a challenge, and I know that work behind the theater is part of work plans for our parking staff. So I'd be happy to connect with them and report back to you and send you an update on sort of what those plans look like and take into account what you're sharing with me today. I can definitely do that. In terms of our events, this is another area where we do work to create greater access points for people coming in who may not be coming in a car. So most recently with the solar eclipse event as an example, I'm sure everyone knew that huge thing was happening back in April. But the city held an event out at Grass Creek Park, and we did designate, pathways and access to an accessible parking space very, very close to where the event was taking place. That was suitable for all sort of modes of transportation coming in. So that's where we try, I think, a little bit more to really make that a mandatory part of what we offer. And the Grand Theater a little bit trickier, but something certainly that's on our radar.
May I kind of add on to that? Do you know if have you got partnerships again with KCAT, or are they doing the bike parking project again, like the bike valet, something to that sort of matter? I don't really know too much about what's going on that way. So if you know anything, that's great. Thanks.
That's a really good question. I know the bike parking downtown has disappeared. So I don't have information in terms of what that partnership looks like. It's not through our department, but again, excuse me, a follow-up that I could look into in terms of that component for sure.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Thanks, Megan.
Great, thanks. Any other questions for Danica from the committee? Not seeing any. Are there any members of the public wishing to ask questions regarding this report for Danica?
Through you, Madam Chair, yes. I will recognize Michael. Okay, Michael, you should be able to unmute.
Yep, thank you very much. I left some of what I should have said earlier off, unfortunately, but Danica brought it right to the forefront again. Part of why I mentioned the parking for disabled, free, and so on is because of access to these resources. Like Artillery Park would be a particular place, and of course the Grand Theater there's very limited parking for people with disabilities, and so that would really add. By example, I know a number of people that go to the swimming program, which was mentioned at Artillery Park, and there's very limited parking spaces in general there, not just disability spots, of which there's very few. And it has a great resource there, but they're forced to park on the street. So that would really help with the accessibility to that resource. Those ramps, the warming pool, things like that, that would really help them. And with the Grand Theater, it's very difficult. I was there recently. Danica provided some wonderful tickets for a big event, and there were some disabled people there. And they had quite a difficulty in getting somewhere close by. One individual who actually used to be on the committee, I believe, she was there, and it was very hard for her. She had to be quite a distance away, and so that she couldn't do. So she had to take public transport because she was in a chair, and that was very difficult. So luckily I was there, I spotted her, I gave her a drive, gave her a drive home, but it would really help for accessibility for these resources. My error, sorry, I should have mentioned that earlier, I apologize. That's why I kind of chimed in earlier. Anyways, thanks again, and I'll let you go. Bye.
Thank you. So this report was for information only, so we will move on to our next report, and I invite staff to introduce the Accessibility Office update for our first quarter.
Good afternoon again, everybody. It's my turn to speak. I'll provide a quick overview of the report and happy to answer any questions and get any feedback. So in looking at the Accessibility Office statistics from the first quarter of 2024, they were similar to previous they were up from the fourth quarter in 2023, but were very similar to previous first quarters in previous years. And overall is an increase on our 5-year average of inquiries when looking at the first quarter, but this is not surprising. During the pandemic, there was a significant decrease in inquiries just due to the lack of city services and just people staying at home. So we're going to see that trend. So long story short, the inquiries are generally where they have been over the last little while. In terms of the specifics, the inquiries are still very much the same. The highest volume relate to parking as well as roads and sidewalks. In the first quarter of this year, there were still some winter events, which always increases the number of inquiries. Again, the standard inquiries received for roads and sidewalks has to do with obstacles created by winter weather and requests to have service taken. With parking, the inquiries primarily relate to people requesting review of tickets for parking in accessible spaces, as well as people reporting cars parked illegally, either in accessible spaces or blocking access. One area that did receive a little bit of an increase is inquiries related to recreation and leisure facilities. So related to the group that spoke with us first today, there appears to be more of a notice on reporting barriers related to access. So myself and the staff in that area are working to increase or decrease, sorry, the barriers by installing things such as power door operators, making sure they're operating, as well as looking at potential for increasing the number of adult change tables installed in recreation facilities. A lot of recreation facilities are set to undergo a revisioning, which would be a great opportunity for accessibility improvements to be made to many of these facilities that are 40 and 50 years old. In a more sort of lighter news, but also important, coming up at the end of the month is National Accessibility Week. So the city has been working, myself have been, and staff have been working with the Awareness and Education Project team. We have our campaign ready to roll during the week, which is, I believe, May 26th through June 1st, focusing again on service animals and proper etiquette. We are going to be doing things through the city's communication channels, but also partnering with the library on sharing information, signage that will be on site at libraries and posters as well. Additionally, we do have on Wednesday, May the 29th is Red Shirt Day for inclusion on accessibility. I can't remember all the parts to it, but it's Red Shirt Day with respect to accessibility. So City Hall will be illuminated in red, and the city is supporting the Inclusive Play project, which, as mentioned earlier, is looking to fundraise for the city's first highly inclusive playground. So we are purchasing red shirts through them for staff and for council members to wear proudly on Red Shirt Day. And finally, speaking of the Inclusive Play project, the city will be having a presence at their Inclusive Fun Fair, which is happening on June 8th at the Rideau Heights Community Center and Shannon Park. So I'm looking at this as a good opportunity to go and meet other, I guess, community groups and vendors in the area of accessibility, as well as get feedback from the public on accessibility and the city of Kingston and its services and facilities. So very much looking forward to that. And to wrap things up, just a reminder to the committee, we have one meeting before the summer break. So we'll be meeting next month in June. Presenting at the committee that month will be the Kingston and Area Taxi Licensing Commission. They're doing their annual update, so a good chance to provide feedback to the commission and to their chair, Joseph Dowser, who will be attending, as well as the city's Facilities Management and Construction Services Department will be providing an update. So again, a chance for you to provide some feedback in those service areas. And with that, Amy, I'm happy to answer any questions and receive any feedback.
Perfect. Thanks so much, Derek. Questions? And I see Megan.
Hi there. So this question, yes, it's for Derek. I was curious about on our work plan about the ability to take further review about the site plan control guidelines and bylaw recommended changes for 2024. I know that the accessibility checklist for site plan is one thing, but the changes to the bylaw and guidelines, I was taking a look through trying to compare it. It's a lot of legislative changes that have gone through and are going to go through, so it gets a bit complicated. But I've entirely lost my train of thought. I'm very sorry.
No, it's okay. I think if I may, I think I can kind of steer what you would like to do there, if that's okay.
Yeah.
I think because it is such a complex issue, we do have the site plan review project team. So I think that would be an appropriate avenue that I know Susan is the lead for that. We could discuss seeing about having planning staff there to provide some more information or some more feedback. It might be a more conducive environment than a formal committee meeting. So perhaps Megan, you, Susan, and I can chat offline about that, if that would be okay with you.
Sure, yes. I was wondering what our best avenue for that would be, but I do it somewhere in the works, but didn't really know where it's at. But yeah, I'd be happy to chat further and just ask some more questions about it and see where we're at, especially with like reference materials, getting up to date and that sort of thing. Everything's updated in like 23, 24, I think, almost. Yeah.
Okay, great, nice. Dorothy Ann, yes, what I saw your hand.
I raised my hand initially because it's a bit confusing, all the things that are going on in May. It's also MS Awareness Month and their color is red as well. So I'm thinking there's lots of overlaps of red things to wear. But anyway, just to Megan's point, as someone who's relatively new on the committee, that would be really helpful to have a little bit of a background in what those policies and procedures are. And I'm sure anybody else new coming onto the committee might like to know what's going on in that general area. So anyway, thanks for asking, Megan, and it'll be interesting to hear what is presented. I hope we all get to hear from it too. Thanks.
Great, thanks. Councillor Tozo.
Thank you, Madam Chair, through you. So great presentation, Derek. Question I have is about inquiries. Are they individual inquiries, or if somebody follows up with a pre-existing inquiry, does that count as a new inquiry, or is that coupled in with old inquiries? Because so like, does 193 capture all the inquiries, or does it include follow-ups as well? Or are those counted separately?
Great question, Councillor Tozo. And the simple answer is if there's a follow-up, it is not included in that. The way the tracking system works is it's all related to the same initial inquiry, unless a person puts a completely separate one in. But in reviewing most of them, they're not usually duplicates. So that I'd say that 193 is accurate and is not double counting or missing anything.
Perfect, thank you.
Do we have any other questions or comments for Derek? Okay, are there any members of the public who wish to ask any questions or comments to Derek regarding his report?
Through you, Madam Chair, I'm not seeing any movement from members of the public.
Okay. And so this report was also for information only. So we will move on to our last item on our agenda, which was the addendum, so the add, which is a project team. So we are looking for 2 appointments for the Ann Gorda Moore Park project team. Do I have any volunteers? I see Penny. And do I have another volunteer? We are looking for 2. Regan, I see. Perfect, thank you. And so I do need a mover and a seconder to confirm these appointments. I see Councillor Tozo and I see Dinah. And all in favor on that appointment? Or those appointments, I should say. Thank you. That carries, and thank you to both of our volunteers. There are quite a bit of other items, so motions, we don't have any. Notice of motions, we also don't have any. Is there any other business from committee members? Usually I would hear in advance if there is, so I don't think there is. We did not receive any correspondence. So again, as Derek mentioned, our next meeting before kind of the summer break is going to be Thursday, June 6th at 1:00 p.m. So I look forward to seeing everyone there. And again, before we adjourn, I do need a mover and a seconder for adjournment. So I see Regan and I see Dorothy Ann. And all in favor of adjournment on this Thursday afternoon? Perfect. That is everyone. Thank you all. And I look forward to seeing everybody in June.